And at the end of the day, they come in the car after school and their brother or sister says something to them and it blows them up.
Yeah.
But it's not that moment that's the issue. It's everything that happened during their day.
Welcome to the All Kids Can podcast, dedicated to supporting parents on their journey to nurture happy, successful children in every facet of life, particularly their journey through their education. Whether you're navigating the complexities of a recent diagnosis or you're finding that your child is struggling to have success with their learning, this podcast is for you. As a parent, you have incredible power and influence in your child's life. And with the right knowledge and strategies, you will be empowered to guide your child towards their best life. I'm your host, Christy Howarth, accredited dyslexia therapist, special education teacher, family coach, and mum of two brilliantly neuro-spicy kids of my own. Are you ready? Let's dive in.
And at the end of the day, they come in the car after school and their brother or sister says something to them and it blows them up.
Yeah.
But it's not that moment that's the issue. It's everything that happened during their day.
Welcome back to the All Kids Can podcast. We know the trials and tribulations that our kids face when they are living with a neurodivergent brain in a neurotypical world. That's why I'm excited to have Jacintha Field, aka Jay, from Happy Soul Kids with us today. Jay is a family and child counsellor who uses art therapy to support our children's mental health, wealth, and well-being and foster resilience, growth, and a sense of inner peace. That sounds amazing, Jay. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Christy. Thanks so much for having me.
Firstly, Jay, let us know why did you, and how perhaps did you decide to become a child and family counsellor? What led you down this road?
It's a funny story, actually. My background's actually in events and PR. I worked at Crown, I worked in the Logies, Brownlow, Sarah Jessica Parker was here. I worked at Melbourne Storm, I worked at VRC. Like, I had this vast background of PR and media, essentially. And then about 4 years ago, we separated and my child had some huge emotions. Like, he was throwing bins around the house, he was running up the street. It was COVID. We separated and he started school all at the same time. And he literally, he was not okay. He just couldn't handle these emotions. And to be honest, it was above me. I couldn't support him. You know, with all the breath work and meditation that I was doing, it wasn't enough for him. He needed more. So I'm a researcher. I started researching as much as I possibly could to be able to help him. And then we just together, we started expressing emotions and how we were feeling. And I've always been a conscious mother. I've always followed Dr. Shafali and always written her books, her conscious parenting book. So I've always been very conscious. We've always talked about emotions, but it was a whole deeper level that I just wasn't ready for. And together we just navigated through that separation part. We sold our house, we had to move. And this was all during COVID as well. So during COVID, I saw how many kids couldn't gain access to psychologists, and it just absolutely broke my heart. I was like, there are children all over the world. Children have my heart, and there were children all over the world that I knew that I could help with all of the tools that I'd learned with my own son. So that's when I started studying to become a family and child counsellor, art therapist. So while COVID was happening, while I had a child with these big emotions, I was also studying as well, and we moved down to Torquay. So it was just, it's just so much was going on. Like, we were both quite broken during that time. And I just knew that I needed to learn as much as I could for my own son. And that's essentially why I started working as a counsellor, because I love it. Like, these children will come in, and the way that they are from when they first start to when they leave, like, it just really makes your heart sing. It's just so beautiful. Like, one comes to mind, and it was a similar situation, separated. And the confidence that she shown, it was just amazing. She was able to use her voice. She had confidence within herself. It was just beautiful. It was just so beautiful. And so I work with my work isn't just with the kids, it's also with the parents, it's with the families. We essentially create a new language, and it's a language that they're not used to. It's like going from English to Italian. It's we've got to move through different parts of ourselves that we're not used to. We're breaking, in my case, 40 years of habits of parenting, because unless we do this work, we're essentially just parenting the way that our parents parented us.
Yes.
And that didn't always work that well. You
Yeah.
know, I've spent most of my adult life dealing with my childhood, and that's not to say anything about my parents. It's just they were doing the best that they could at the time, but it's not how I needed to be parented.
Mm.
You know, I needed
Yes.
to be parent in another way of being understood, heard, seen, valued.
Mm. Mm.
And that generation didn't have those capabilities
I
to
don't
do.
think they had the knowledge either, did they, Jay? We
No.
know more now. Mm.
And I'm finding even with my dad, like he's just so much more present with my son now than he was with me growing up. And it's beautiful to see because they've started to gain the knowledge and understanding of what our needs are as humans. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. So it's a real mind shift and a real step into a whole new way of really seeing our kids and really seeing them and knowing how to support them so that they don't have the wounds that they don't need to have, right?
Exactly. And it's a new language. It's listening to what our kids need. It's actually hearing them. It's giving them choice as well.
Yeah.
Because in a with parenting, as a child was always told you need to do this, we're going here, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. And I was never given the opportunity to say, I don't want to do that. I actually really just want to go to the beach. And now I teach parents that giving kids choice is so important so they feel empowered in their own life too.
Mm.
But that then we have to get rid of that word I feel disrespected by my children, where it's like actually they're just having a voice. It's very different to being disrespected. So yeah, there's a whole, as you know, Christy, there's so much to work through, and it's not just the kids. I do a lot of play therapy in practice as well and use different modalities. Like we make slime a lot
Nice. Yeah.
because we use these self-regulation tools, and I work with neurotypical and neurodiverse children because I understand neurodiversity. So it's you know it's a whole different way of being now that I think people are starting to understand and come on board with too, which is really beautiful. Parents want to show up best for their children, and they're realizing that the way that they've been potentially parenting their children isn't working. There's a new way now that we're all starting to understand.
Yes, I love that. What an amazing story, Jay. I love it. And just to see the difference from when kids come to see you at the very beginning and then the therapy that you do with them, is it usually a weekly session or how do they show up with you?
Yeah, so we have an intake session. So the intakes was just with the parents. Sometimes it's with one parent, sometimes it's with two. If they're separated, we generally do it separately as well. And then it's weekly sessions. So it's 45-minute sessions. And then there's a 15-minute leeway just because sometimes it's hard getting children out. You got to reset the room, etc. Because sometimes we end up in a giant mess.
Yeah.
And that I encourage that. I want the mess because at home you're told don't make a mess. And I'm the opposite. I'm like, no, here, come here, be free. The one thing that I'll say to a child as soon as they work through that door is say, I want every part of you here. You know, every part of you is welcome. I just want to let you know that, like, every part, just come in and we're just going to, this is your playtime. This is our time to connect together.
Mm.
You know, we don't, I think in life that we really move towards the happier emotions because they're the easier the emotions. But if we look at ourselves as a whole being, it's like the yin and yang symbol. We all have parts of us that are light and dark, and it's accepting those parts of ourselves. I know growing up, I've always just gone, oh no, I need to be happy. I need to be happy. And if I'm not happy, people won't accept me. And to be honest, sometimes that actually is the case.
Yeah.
But if we really start accepting everyone, that everyone has moments in life. Sometimes we're going to be angry and sometimes we're going to be sad and we're going to be frustrated and we're going to be annoyed. And if we just accept and have compassion for the people around us and say, that's okay, they're having a moment. That's all right. They've got stuff going on.
Mm.
We'll be able to connect better, that we don't take things on, other people's stuff on. It's not, oh, you said this to me or you were mean to me or whatever it might be. It's that moment of saying, okay, that she's got so much going on in her life. I need to really be there for that person.
Yeah.
And so I think that's, yeah, people learning more about themselves to be able to show up more for our children.
Yeah. And I think that it's not a natural thing to see that dark side of ourselves too. Like, I know that some people call it shadow work and things like, because it is traditionally pushed away, isn't it? But if we can understand it and see it, then we can allow it to move through, and then it doesn't get bottled up, and then kids maybe don't explode as much at that point in time because they haven't been able to express it incrementally throughout when it came up. Is it
Mm.
sort of that kind of thing? How do you teach kids to really deal with those sort of more difficult emotions that they feel?
So, one of the things that I teach parents is that with a child in the morning, they might be rushed out of school. And then, they might rush out of the door to school. They might forget their lunch. And then at recess, they can't find their friends. And then a teacher shamed them. They didn't make them feel really good. And then somebody said something to them that didn't make them feel good, or they were really mean to them, or they felt left out. And then at lunchtime, they lost their favorite ball, so they couldn't play soccer. So then they had to go do something they didn't really want to do. And then they didn't get a very good mark in their schoolwork, and so if we take that little moment that happened and say, oh, there is something underneath that we need to get to the bottom of.
Yes. Yeah.
Hitting our sister or speaking to people, it's not great, but it's having compassion for that of, hey, that's a boundary. We can't hurt other people, and we can't take our big feelings out on other people. What do we need to do? Do we need to go for a walk? Do we need to jump on a trampoline? Do you need some connection time? What is it that you need in this moment? And actually asking children, like, what is it that they need?
Yeah. And
With
it
my
sounds, and the behavior is communication, isn't it? It's showing us that something's off. Maybe we've had that series of bad, negative things happening throughout the day, and you don't feel great. And instead of just attacking the child with saying, hey, you can't do that, da, 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 you're looking at it on a deeper level. And then you're going to get more out of it, and you're going to help them move through things. And then that's going to help them for the next time that they face the same situation.
Yeah, exactly. And, all of these little tools that you give children and what we work on in practice, like one of the things is like concentrating on my breath all of the time in practice. Like I'm always, oh, whoa, that felt really big for me. And oh, whoa, oh, that was a big, exciting moment in my body. I need to really breathe through that. And so mirroring that behavior to children is really important. So the same thing goes if you've had a bad day and your child gets in the car. You might take out your big feelings on a child, and this happens all of the time, and then parents feel guilt and shame. And my whole thing is for them to have compassion for themselves. It's like, that's okay. You had a moment. You've had a lot going on. It's okay.
Yeah.
And so I teach parents to have more compassion for themselves, because the more compassion they have for themselves, the more compassion you have for everyone around you.
Mm.
It's like, when you're in the kitchen and you flick the milk over and it spills all over the ground and you're like, oh, and you get so angry with yourself. That's actually mirroring what to do for children. So if their toy breaks and they get really upset and these big emotions, and you say, stop crying, they're actually just mirroring what you did with the milk. It's the same thing. So what about if you met with them compassion and said, that's okay. That's okay. You good. I understand that would be really hard for you. That's a big moment. And if you lead with compassion and love, that's when we can show up for our kids in a different way. We can see,
Yes.
feel them, value them.
Yeah.
Because that's all we ever need, even from our friends, our family, sometimes to be saying, I see you.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
it's okay. I got you. I
Yeah.
see you. We're in this together.
Mm. And I love that the talk out loud stuff. So like for example, like if I did have just a really crappy day, at the end of the day, it's okay as a parent to say, "Hey, I've had such a shocking day. I feel really angry right now." But you can say that to your kids, right? I feel really angry right now. What I need to do is get my runners on and go for a run. Or I need to, go out and jump into the pool. Or I need to do something to, help myself feel better because I just had a yucky day. And modeling that, I would like to see my kids say something like that if they're not feeling 100%, or if they've just had a crappy day as well. I want to see them saying, you know what? In my body, I just feel really angry, and I'm going to go and do this to help myself with it. Like we just, like you said, we mirror it because we want to model what we want to see.
That's it.
Mm.
And it's like we have to have these big shields on being parents, where we have to be so tough and Wonder Woman and Superman, and we can't let kids know that we're hurting. It's actually the opposite. So then they think, oh, my mum or dad never has big feelings. Why do I have big feelings, but they don't have big feelings? And so then they start to shame themselves. So it's and showing up in that different way of you actually saying exactly what you said before. I had a really hard day today. I'm actually feeling really grumpy. I want to let you know that my big feelings are not about you. It's nothing that you've done wrong. It's my stuff.
Mm.
My son will actually say to me, Mummy, you're really grumpy. You need to go for a run. And so he recognizes that my stuff is not his stuff and that he needs to go for a run.
Yeah.
He can also feel, at the moment, I've got a really big project for children's mental health that I'm working on, and he can feel that I'm a little bit disconnected because it's just, there's a lot of stress going on. So he comes, leans in closer to me. He's like, Mummy, we need to have some connection time. I'm like, yes, darling, we do. So I just need to put it away. And it's beautiful. If he misses me, he'll say, we need some connection time, Mummy, because that's what I've always said to him over time. He's very in tune. He can pick up on lots of different feelings, and it's beautiful for him to be able to do that. And by no means is he perfect. Neither am I. We make mistakes. We screw up all the time. We say dumb things. We have verbal diarrhea. We don't act in our highest good all the time, but it's a level of compassion to say, I love you unconditionally. Even in those moments where you don't feel that you're best, I love you then too. And I want you to know that. Like, I love every part of you, no matter how angry I might be at the time because I've got something going on. I still love you no matter what.
Yeah. 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 And it's just being human, right? That's
That's it.
just how we are. No one is perfect. Everyone has these emotions, emotion, like energy and motion, right? It's moving through our body, and that's okay because that's who we are as humans.
That's it. It's
Yeah.
just a level of acceptance. But that first, and I've got a 21-day self-love program, that first comes to self. So the harder we are on other people around us is generally because we're really hard to ourselves. So we need to break through that as well. And that starts with compassion, and that starts with love, and that starts with realizing that self-love is so important. So if you constantly live for your children and your family, and you get up and you do the washing and you go to work and you come home and you make the dinner and you go to bed and you do that all the time, there's nothing in there that lights up your cup.
Mm.
Of course you're going to show up in a grumpy way because you're not filling up your cup.
Yeah.
So self-love needs to be the priority. And I
Mm.
know it's really hard for parents where they're like, no, the kids need to be the priority.
Mm.
Actually, you need to be the priority.
Mm.
It's when you can show up for yourself in a different way, that's when children recognize, oh, I need to do something for myself too. And that's mirroring behavior.
Yeah.
So it's really important. It might even be just getting up and having a cup of tea outside in the sun. Just like I've got 5 minutes to myself, or doing a little meditation, or I will constantly hear that I just don't have time. And it's like, I know, I understand, and I can feel compassion for that. But we need to make time,
Mm.
because we can always make time.
Mm. Because it doesn't have to be a long time. I mean, my thing at the moment for self-care is I'm obsessed with going to Chemist Warehouse and buying different colors because I've ditched the shellac, the those the nail salons, and I'm just doing it myself. And I found it just this tiny little thing is my self-care at the moment. And I
That's
get
it.
to see it all the time, and it reminds me that I'm doing things for myself, because as parents we must have a capacity for giving, and the only way that we're going to have that capacity is to look after ourselves first.
Yeah. And it's important in relationships as well. It's always that resentment that happens of, oh, well, he does more than me, or she does more than me, or whatever it might be. I suggest where people get a calendar to make sure everybody's cup is filled up, and including the children. Another thing I always suggest to parents is giving kids a yes day.
Oh,
Now,
don't.
we've
No.
all,
Do you
we've
know how
all
many times my kids want a yes day? Can we have a yes day? No. Tell me about it.
Okay, so the yes day is about children having full control of their day. Now, you
Yeah.
can put a time limit on there. You can put a money limit on there. I do one with my son, and he has $100. So he has to actually go away, work out exactly what his day looks like. We have boundaries around it where he can't have too much sugar. It's just that's he can't eat a lot of sugar. Otherwise, his big feelings and emotions come out. And so he's educated on that, and he knows that.
Yeah.
So yes, absolutely. We go have fun, and we do eat whatever we want within limits. So
Yeah.
it's not. It was funny. I know with the movie, once we went through a car wash, and he's like, "We've got to put the windows down." And I was like, "No, no, no, that's a boundary." Which is taking it a little bit too far.
Yeah.
But what it is it's allowing children to have him feel empowered,
Yeah. Yeah.
allowing you to actually have joy.
Mm, mm.
As parents, we'll go to bounce and we'll sit on the sidelines, and our kids will be on the trampoline.
Yeah.
Why are we not on the trampoline with them? Now, I know it's because of our pelvic floor.
I was going to say.
But, it's those moments of finding it within what you can do, of actually showing up and having joy. Because when we become parents, everything just becomes really, it's just you're living to work, to it's we don't have that joy anymore. Like when I moved to the coast, I started surfing and skateboarding. And I don't do it enough. I absolutely don't. But when I do in those moments, I have so much joy and I feel like I'm a little kid again. And it's finding those moments of just like, whoa, this feels really good for me.
And that's part of the self-care, isn't it? And we
Yeah.
we do need to play as adults, and a lot of the time we just do have so much on that it becomes just so immersive. But just making sure that we take that time to do something that we love.
Yeah, it's
Mm,
a mindset of, even
mm,
like with a yes day, you don't need to spend a lot of money. You can say, like, I live in Torquay. It's like, okay, we're just going to go around in Torquay. So then he can choose to go to the beach or the park, or we just use things that we have. It's not about the money that you spend. It's just about showing up for them and being with them and you actually going into their world.
mm,
Same thing with technology. Often we just go, here, have the technology. How often have you sat down and actually played a game with your child
mm.
and watched what they do? Because you going into their world is so important for them.
Yeah,
They
I love that.
like, whoa,
Mm.
oh, you want to play this together with me? My son's thing is Geometry Dash at the moment.
Oh, mine too.
Oh,
Obsessed.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
obsessed. He loves Geometry Dash, but it's much better than Roblox. I'm not a big fan of Roblox. I've done
yeah,
a parenting show called Parental Guidance. It's with Justin Coulson, and I'd recommend everyone watch it. I watched it with my son, and he started to understand why I didn't like Roblox and why I don't like certain games.
yeah,
It explains the why. There's a just maybe watch the episodes first to see whether it's something that you do want to watch. One of them's on porn, which I didn't want to watch with my son.
yeah.
So just make sure that you really look into the episodes. But some of the episodes there are just so enlightening for children, or even what to do if your house is on fire. Like, have you ever had that conversation with a child?
Yeah, no, no, never thought of it. Yeah.
Oh, like what to do if you get lost in the city? How would you get home?
Mm.
It really starts these conversations, but things like yes days, they empower our kids. And that's what we want to do, is we want to empower them.
Yeah,
Because quite often in life, kids can feel really disempowered.
yeah. Because there's that movie that started off my kids asking for a yes day. Have you seen, you've obviously seen the movie?
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All right, maybe you've convinced me. I might do a yes day. But it's about setting those boundaries, isn't it? Or showing the boundaries if they are maybe pushed a little bit too far.
It's about connection.
Yeah,
The whole thing is
connection.
about
Love
connection.
that. Yeah.
If you but you sit them down and say, all right, I want you to plan it, and then you go through it and you work out what you agree with and what you don't agree with.
Yeah.
I'm going to get $50 and go to the lolly shop. You're like, well, okay, well that's just not going to work here. It's teaching them in those moments of, yeah, we want you to have control, but these are my boundaries. And it's been really clear about that. And it's having fun and joy and laughing, and when we let our hair down, sometimes it's like, whoa, I actually had a really fun day.
Yeah, that's beautiful. All right, it's on my to-do list. So, Jay, tell me a little bit about what you're offering, because I know you've got some exciting stuff coming up.
Yeah, so we're building up a massive online platform for children, which I can't say much about now, but it's in the works for about 3 years. I've got a really big advisory board, and it's really cool, and there's just lots of things happening. So, and I have a one-on-one practice. So as a family and child counselor, I also work with a lot of separated couples. Like we did separate 4 years ago. So I understand the big emotions that children have during those times, especially during transition, going from one house to the other. Sometimes it's like a bomb has gone off. And
Mm.
it's really hard to hold space for those moments. So I work with a lot of separated couples. And yeah, I have a 21-day self-love program as well. So we're just rejigging everything at the moment. But yeah, watch this space. Maybe just have a look at my Instagram.
Mm.
I have a TikTok page as well. And yeah, just keep in contact.
Yeah, great. Well, I'll link your details in the show notes. And I'm sure that, there's so many parents that are listening here today that they have kids that they do struggle with big emotions. And sometimes because we are so ingrained from how we were parented, it does take a big conscious shift to really turn that around and create a more a happier childhood for our kids. And so one that they can really understand themselves and then grow into adults that really understand themselves.
That's it. And it's neurodiversity as well. If kids are neurodiverse, they're not meaning it. And that's the piece of the puzzle that I really try to help people understand, is that it's just a part of them. There's this amazing book called The Red Beast,
Yes.
and it just teaches you that it's a part of them that they're not meaning, and we just need to tame that red beast. And so rather than you misbehaved or you were wrong, it's like, oh, that's okay, your red beast came out. It's the way that we position things, it's the way that we talk about them, it's the way we have that communication with our children, to help them understand that there's not anything wrong with them. It's just a part of them that we need to manage.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you
Okay.
so much. Thank you so much for your time today, Jay. And I'll let you know how we go with the yes day.
Please do. Photos, videos.
Yeah,
It's just
I'll
maybe
post
one.
it.
No phones, mummy. That's another one that's comes up.
Yeah, yep. Takes the attention away, doesn't it? We need to be more present.
That's
Yeah.
it. Beautiful.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it.
Bye.
You've been listening to the All Kids Can podcast. If you like what you've heard on today's episode, I would be grateful if you could take a minute to leave a rating or a review. Thank you for helping us grow and be visible to parents who can benefit from the information in this show. Lastly, if you're not already part of the All Kids Can community, sign up at our website for your free weekly newsletter, links to new podcast episodes, and up-to-date information on our offerings. Head to allkidscan.com.au to sign up and learn more.